The Young and the Restless spoilers Monday full January 6, 2025. The chaos in Genoa City, love, betrayal, and schemes. The tension in Genoa City was palpable. The Newman family was on the brink of collapse, emotions running high as personal dramas and hidden schemes unfolded. Everyone had their own agenda, and the cracks in the family's unity were beginning to show. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the Abbotts were ready to strike, seizing the opportunity to take down Victor Newman once and for all. Summer's unyielding hope. Summer Newman couldn't let go of Kyle Abbott, even though she knew deep down that he wasn't good for her. Kyle had a habit of loving intensely but burning out just as quickly. His latest relationship with Claire was no different. Their once passionate love had become a source of irritation for Kyle, who now found himself disillusioned and restless. Summer, however, believed that Kyle would eventually return to her. He always does, she told herself, clutching onto fleeting moments of their past happiness. He just needs time to realize that we're meant to be. What Summer didn't see was the growing coldness in Kyle's eyes, the way he was already distancing himself emotionally. And if, or when, he returned, would it be out of love or convenience? Nick's desperate search for Sharon. Meanwhile, Nick Newman was consumed by the search for Sharon. Her sudden disappearance had left him frantic, and every lead he pursued turned into a dead end. Jordan, the cunning woman who had orchestrated Sharon's abduction, had fled Genoa City, taking Sharon with her. She moved her captive from one secret location to another, ensuring that no one could trace her. Sharon's condition was deteriorating. Jordan kept her sedated, using drugs to keep her unconscious and compliant. But the prolonged use of sedatives was taking a toll on Sharon's body. If the situation didn't change soon, she might not survive. Nick's desperation grew with every passing day. He stormed into the Newman offices, demanding resources and threatening anyone who stood in his way. "I don't care what it takes," he shouted. "We need to find her, or she's going to die." Despite his efforts, the trail was cold, and Nick began to lose hope. But deep down, he refused to give up. Sharon was out there, and he was determined to bring her home. Jack and Kyle's opportunity. While the Newman family descended into chaos, Jack Abbott saw his chance. For years, Jack had clashed with Victor Newman, their rivalry shaping much of Genoa City's corporate and personal battles. Now, with Victor distracted by his family's turmoil, Jack knew it was time to strike. Jack called Kyle into his office, the younger Abbott entering with a confident smirk. "Kyle," Jack began, his tone serious, "the Newmans are vulnerable right now. Victor is so focused on his family's drama that he won't see us coming." Kyle leaned forward, intrigued. "What's the plan, Dad?" Jack outlined his strategy, a calculated move to undermine Newman Enterprises by exploiting its internal instability. "We've waited for this opportunity," Jack said, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Now we take it." Kyle, always eager to prove himself to his father, agreed. But Kyle's motivations weren't purely about corporate rivalry. Deep down, he harbored resentment toward Victor for his own personal reasons, and this was his chance to settle the score. Victor's defiance. Victor Newman wasn't blind to the chaos surrounding him. He saw the fractures in his family, the cracks in Newman Enterprises' defenses, and the vultures circling. But Victor was nothing if not a fighter. In a private meeting with his closest allies, Victor laid out his own counter-strategy. "The Abbotts think they can take advantage of us," he said, his voice steely. "But they've underestimated me. They always do." Victor's resolve was unshakable, but even he couldn't ignore the emotional toll of his family's struggles. Nick's despair over Sharon's disappearance, Nikki's secret weighing heavily on her, and the growing tension with Nick, all of it threatened to distract him at a critical time. A race against time, saving Sharon as Victor and Jack prepared for their corporate showdown. Nick received a breakthrough in Sharon's case. A private investigator traced Jordan's movements to a remote property outside Genoa City. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was the first real lead Nick had received in weeks. Without hesitation, Nick assembled a team to storm the property. The clock was ticking, and Sharon's life hung in the balance. The rescue operation was tense and chaotic. Jordan, realizing she had been found, tried to flee with Sharon, but Nick intercepted her. The confrontation was intense, with Nick's fury boiling over as he demanded answers. "Why are you doing this?" he shouted, his fists clenched. Jordan's response was cold and calculated. "This isn't about you, Nick. It's about power. And you're standing in the way." But Nick was undeterred. He fought his way to Sharon, finding her weak but alive. As he carried her to safety, he vowed never to let her out of his sight again. The battle begins with Sharon rescued. Nick's focus shifted back to his family and the brewing war with the Abbotts. Jack and Kyle made their first move, launching a public relations campaign designed to tarnish Newman Enterprises' reputation. Victor, ever the strategist, retaliated with his own countermeasures, setting the stage for a corporate and personal clash that threatened to consume everyone involved. Kyle, emboldened by his father's confidence, began to maneuver against Victor with ruthless precision. But even as he relished the conflict, he couldn't escape the growing complications in his personal life. Summer's unwavering hope for their relationship and Claire's suspicions about his loyalty were distractions he couldn't afford. The Newman legacy at stake. As the battle between the Newmans and the Abbotts intensified, the stakes grew higher. It wasn't just about business, it was about pride, loyalty, and the future of their families. Victor and Jack, both seasoned warriors, knew that only one would emerge victorious. But amidst the chaos, the question lingered: could the Newmans hold themselves together long enough to face their enemies? Or would their internal struggles prove to be their undoing? This chapter sets the stage for a high-stakes confrontation, balancing personal drama with corporate intrigue. Would you like to dive deeper into any specific storyline, such as Sharon's recovery, Kyle's relationships, or the Newman-Abbott rivalry? The power play, Billy, Sally, and Damien's intriguing plans. Genoa City was never short on drama, and Billy Abbott's determination to rise above his failures was the latest chapter in a long-standing tale of ambition, betrayal, and family dynamics. He had a vision for the future, a new company that could rival any corporate giant. But for that, he needed one thing: funding. And who better to turn to than his mother, Jill Abbott? Billy's plea to Jill. Billy approached Jill with his plan, confident that she would see the potential in his vision. "Mom," he began, standing in the grand living room of the Chancellor estate, "I want to create something that will make you proud. A company that can rival Newman and Jabot. All I need is your backing." Jill, ever the pragmatic businesswoman, folded her arms and eyed her son critically. "Billy, you've had your chances. Time and again, I've given you opportunities, and you've squandered them. Why should this time be any different?" Billy's frustration was evident, but he kept his tone steady. "Because I've learned from my mistakes. I'm not the same person I was, Mom. I have Sally Spectra on board. She's talented, driven, and ready to make this work." But Jill was unmoved. "Sally Spectra," she scoffed. "She's a wild card, Billy. And frankly, so are you." "My answer is no. If you want to build this company, you'll have to do it without my help." Billy watched as his mother walked away, her words ringing in his ears. He felt a mix of anger and determination. If Jill wouldn't support him, he would find another way. Billy and Sally's secret plan. Reeling from Jill's rejection, Billy returned to his apartment, where Sally was waiting. Her fiery red hair framed her face as she sat at a table strewn with papers, her expression one of focus and resolve. "Well," she asked, looking up as Billy entered. "Did she agree?" Billy shook his head. "Nope. She doesn't believe in me, or us. But we don't need her. We'll make this happen on our own." Sally leaned back in her chair, her lips curling into a sly smile. "Good. Because I've already started working on a backup plan." She gestured to the papers on the table, a detailed blueprint for a fashion tech company that would combine Sally's creative genius with Billy's business acumen. The plan was bold, innovative, and risky. But Sally knew it could work, provided they found the right funding. "We'll approach private investors," Sally said. There are plenty of people in Genoa City who'd be interested in a venture like this. All we need is the pitch. Billy nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Together, he and Sally began refining their strategy, preparing to approach potential backers. But they both knew that without Jill's support, the road ahead would be far from easy. Devon's suspicion of Damien while Billy and Sally plotted their next move, another storm was brewing in Genoa City. Devon Hamilton, ever the perceptive businessman, had his first encounter with Damien, the so-called long-lost member of the Winters family. From the moment Devon laid eyes on Damien, he felt uneasy. Damien's charm was undeniable, but there was something about him that didn't sit right with Devon. Perhaps it was the way Damien avoided direct questions or the faint hint of calculation in his eyes. Whatever it was, Devon couldn't shake the feeling that Damien wasn't who he claimed to be. After their initial meeting, Devon voiced his concerns to Lily. "There's something off about Damien," he said. "I can't put my finger on it, but I don't trust him." Lily, ever the optimist, tried to reassure her brother. "Give him a chance, Devon. He's family. Maybe he's just nervous about fitting in." But Devon wasn't convinced. He began discreetly investigating Damien's background, determined to uncover the truth. If he's hiding something, Devon thought to himself, I'll find out what it is. The intersection of plans as fate would have it, Damien crossed paths with Billy and Sally during one of their investor pitches. Damien, intrigued by the duo's bold vision, expressed interest in their venture. Billy, desperate for funding, saw an opportunity, while Sally was cautious but willing to consider Damien's involvement. "Let's be clear," Sally said during their meeting. "This is a serious business venture. We don't have time for games." Damien smiled, his tone smooth. "I assure you, I'm very serious. I see potential here, real potential. And I'm willing to invest." Billy was thrilled, but Devon, who had been observing from a distance, saw the interaction and felt a surge of alarm. If Damien was indeed a con artist, his involvement could spell disaster for Billy and Sally's fledgling company. Devon's warning later, Devon confronted Billy about Damien. "I know you're trying to build something here, Billy," he said, his tone serious. "But you need to be careful. Damien isn't what he seems." Billy, ever the rebel, dismissed Devon's concerns. "You don't know him, Devon. He's willing to take a chance on us when no one else will." "Exactly," Devon shot back. "Don't you think it's a little too convenient? Just watch your back." Billy brushed off the warning, but Sally, who had overheard the conversation, couldn't ignore the nagging doubt it planted in her mind. The road ahead with Damien's potential investment on the line, Billy and Sally forged ahead, determined to prove their worth. But as Devon's investigation into Damien continued, the threads of deception began to unravel. If Damien's true motives were revealed, it could jeopardize not only Billy and Sally's plans but also the fragile relationships within the Winters family. Meanwhile, Jill watched from afar, silently rooting for her son despite her refusal to support him financially. "He has to learn to stand on his own," she told herself. But even she couldn't ignore the growing storm surrounding Billy's ambitious new venture. This chapter sets the stage for high-stakes drama, with Billy and Sally's ambitions colliding with Devon's suspicions and Damien's potential duplicity. Would you like to explore how these threads intertwine further or dive deeper into any specific character's perspective?